I've got Tim Whiting to chat. And Tim, tell us what you do, Tim.
So if I work backwards, at the moment I work full time at a higher education training institution, training young people around the age of 18 to 21 who want to take their hobby, I suppose, a bit more seriously and transfer across to professional skills. What led me to being here was a little bit of teaching and education before that, but prior to lockdown, I'd been a musical director for, gosh, 15 years, and that was mainly in commercial touring productions, a couple of little West End pop-ins and some international work, which was great, but really working mainly in what I used to call the hen party shows, like kind of your ghosts and your nothing too serious. It was never a serious Shakespeare at the National. It was always the sort of pop based shows, really, the Lloyd Webbers, and I had a wonderful time doing it, to be honest.
So you've spent most of your life, all of your life, working with singers, even though you didn't train as a singer yourself.
Absolutely, yeah. So, in a nutshell, I was a piano player. Started around 10 or 11, did all the piano lessons, and realised you do a GCSE and A level that led me then on to doing a music degree. Yeah, so everything I've done has been piano based. There's some conducting, but absolutely, it comes very much from a piano point of view. And actually, until probably, I don't know, maybe 5 6 years before lockdown, that was the only training I'd had musically, was all to do with piano. I'd played for a few singing lessons and coaching sessions, but despite working at quite a reasonable level with singers, I'd had actually no input, or actually hadn't sought any input about how to work with the voice or singers.
And since then, you have done some training with vocal health education.
Absolutely.
And what do you think, what surprised you about what you learned?
I think the great thing about the course is it balances really well that learning about the voice and singing is a big old topic that people devote years of their life to, PhDs, etc. Just one element of it, sort of 2 or 3% of it. But at the same time, the course itself is broken down and structured in a way that it doesn't ever feel unmanageable. And I think that's a really unique balance that the course has. It is doable. You can check your progress, you know you're learning stuff, and you can apply that information very quickly to your own professional practice. But all the way through, and I think it's really important actually, you are aware that you are at the edge of a sea looking in. And it didn't lead you into a false sense of security that overnight you'd become a singing teacher. It was very, I think, very well structured, just to remind you that you're a part of someone's journey. And I think there was a quote quite early on, actually, in my training from yourself. I think something along the lines of, I don't want to misquote you now. I should have written this down. That a teacher's strongest tool is their contacts. And I think that's something that VHE does extremely well, is it reminds you that actually reaching out for specialist help, or referring, or simply having a conversation, that I am working with this singer who has this issue or this problem, or sharing, actually they do this wonderfully, isn't something to be ashamed of. In fact, it's a very constructive, forward-thinking, humble, positive way of moving. And I think that the course is structured towards that. You get a little bit of a lot, which I think is extremely important, because as a musical director, that is your job. You need to know a little bit about a lot. So yeah, I hope
Yes.
after
Well,
that.
in terms of singing, you need to
Yes,
know a little bit about a lot. You need to know a lot about the music that you're conducting. And you also have other skills that you need to do with orchestration and balancing the orchestra and the pit and all of those different considerations which are not those that a singing teacher would have.
Absolutely.
So don't do yourself down, Tim.
No, no, not at all. I think it's, you are, as a musical director, you're the only creative actually that, particularly on touring productions, that tours with the show. The director, the choreographer will set it up. They'll leave their residents or their assistants, associates, whatever they want to call them. But ultimately, from that original creative team, you are the only person who will typically tour with the show. So you could have had a relationship with the cast member from the minute they came in casting. You've seen them through the audition process. You've taught them. And if it's a particularly complicated show, you would have spent many hours teaching them the music, right the way through until then. Gosh, some of these tours now go on for a year, 18 months to 2 years, the longest one I did. So you become the point of contact, and that's lovely. And it's great that people feel that they can come to you as a musical director, but you need very broad shoulders and a way of finding out information that you simply don't know without upsetting people. So if somebody comes to you, I'm having this problem with my voice, they very often assume because you work in music or that department that you know what the problem is. Of course, this can happen to singing teachers as well. Somebody can go to a singing lesson and actually they need to see a GP or a specialist. But I feel that referral system is slightly better highlighted elsewhere. But I think what VHE did very, very well in the first aider course would give you the context in which to frame the problem, but also gave you actually now I can have the conversation with the singer, but actually this is something that I need to pass on or seek advice to. And I think that's wonderful. It's not pretending to be something it's not. It doesn't say I'm going to make you an ENT in 2 years' time, for example, or the best singing teacher. It's a very realistic, achievable, wonderful course.
What we're finding, the more we work with it and the more we work with rehab specialists, is that it's so important to just have that conversation with the singer and just to let them speak and let them tell their story and let them talk to you about what they're going through and what's happening with their voice. And often that's almost enough, actually, just to have that conversation and let them have a bit of time where they're being looked after and being held and being taken care of.
I think we all need to be listened to from time to time. And I think that's an incredibly powerful tool to be able to have that ability. And actually, I think it is an ability, and I think it is a privilege being somebody that people want to talk to, because you've obviously set up a safe environment, a safe space. More so now, I think that exists, but historically, the musical director conductor may not have been the person that you would have brought problems to. There's a generation, hopefully before mine, that ruled by fear. So actually, I think we shouldn't do ourselves down, and actually being the person that people talk to, I think is a skill, and it is definitely worthy of praise.
So speaking as a musical director, if you're speaking to other musical directors, and these may be people working in the pit, in the show, there may be people conducting a choir, maybe running a community choir, may even be people teaching choirs in a school. I mean, all of these different musical directors in different shapes and sizes, what do you think they could benefit from by engaging with a little bit of education in vocal health?
I think as musicians, and I think if you're in a position of leading a choir, whatever space, level, genre, in fact, that is, you probably come from a musical background and therefore have a half decent pair of ears on you. And I think as musical directors, we observe through our hearing, and what the term is, more than we realize. I know the singers that I was working with for a year or 18 months better than I realized. But that doesn't mean you understand what's going on. You can hear when somebody isn't themselves, but that doesn't mean you're able to get inside their head and feel what they're feeling. What I think this course does is give you a framework to begin to understand that. If you can hear that a singer is under the weather, it just gives you the awareness. And I think that's exactly that. It's that sort of intelligent awareness of what could be happening, and it enables you to help the singer. It also, personally, I think it highlighted my own behavior and communication with singers. And actually, I discovered that some things I was doing, some things I was saying, some things that I thought were correct and helpful actually weren't that helpful. And I think it's important that we stay current with our thinking. We are in a position where people listen to us. It's what we do. We communicate and people listen to us, and dare I say it is a position of relative power. There is a slight hierarchy there, and therefore I think we have to be aware that our words do carry weight with singers, particularly if they're not very well. So it's very important for us, I think, to back up what we say to them, be aware what we're saying, and just keep our heads in the constantly learning place.
We hope you liked this video. If you did, please subscribe and share. It helps us get a much wider reach.